The popularity of artists over time has often a strange dynamic. Take for example famous 17th century Dutch Baroque artists like Frans Hals and Johannes Vermeer, both of whom were almost completely forgotten after their death, only to be rediscovered during the middle of the 19th century. The artist of today's video, Gerrit or Gerard Dou, faced the opposite fate. He was a contemporary of both Hals and Vermeer, but unlike those two, he became very successful during his lifetime and his popularity remained high until the middle of the 19th century. And while the works of his peers were being rediscovered, his works lost their popularity and he was largely ignored until some 50 years ago. Another contemporary of these artists was Rembrandt. And while he had a life with many ups and downs, he has consistently remained popular after his life and until today. He was important to Gerrit Dou in the beginning of his career. Dou and Rembrandt both grew up in the city of Leiden, with Rembrandt being 7 years his senior. When Dou was 14 years old, he entered the workshop of the highly talented Rembrandt, and he would stay there for 3 years. He was actually the first student of Rembrandt. You can see the influence of Rembrandt on Dou in his early works, like this self-portrait which Dou painted when he was 22 years old. Rembrandt is particularly famous for his many self-portraits, and he taught Dou the art of coloring and how to properly apply the chiaroscuro technique, a way of applying light and shadow in such a way to create the perception of three-dimensionality. Unlike many other students of Rembrandt, Dou would soon develop his own artistic vision, which was quite different than the one of Rembrandt. Some 8 years into his career, around 1640, Dou would specialize in small-scale paintings of scenes from everyday life. And he would be a real perfectionist, painting with great precision, even developing his own paintbrushes to achieve the amount of perfection he desired. It may be interesting to compare him to arguably an even greater perfectionist from the Dutch Baroque period named Johannes Vermeer. The total number of known paintings by Vermeer today is around 35, which he painted during his 20-year career. And some 200 works are attributed to Dou, painted during his career of some 40 years. This particular work by Dou is the closest in style to the works by Vermeer, a calming interior scene with relatively few props. It's from early in Dou's career and is entitled Old Woman Eating Porridge Near a Spinning Wheel in an Interior, measuring some 50 by 40 centimeters. Zooming in on some of the details, I think we can safely say that Dou was a very detailed and talented artist, paying careful attention to the light and the various materials and surfaces. Compare this work to A Woman Standing at the Virginal by Vermeer, and you can see that Vermeer used less dramatic contrast in colors and that Vermeer's scene is a bit more calming, including fewer objects in the room. The work of the lady eating porridge is one from relatively early in Dou's career, and he soon started creating busier compositions, as you can see in A Woman Playing the Clavichord from 1665. And these works sold for large sums of money. There was even a Swedish ambassador in the Dutch Republic who paid Dou 500 guilders per year for the right of first refusal. In other words, when Dou finished a painting, this man was the first to decide whether he wanted to buy it. And if he desired it, he would have to pay for the painting, as that was not included in his yearly salary. And to put that into perspective, 500 guilders is about $50,000 today. Not bad. You have already seen several works by Dou, and I would like to highlight a few genres and styles that he is best known for. First are the busy scenes from everyday life, filled with many props. That's the large majority of his work. But he also made some biblical scenes, still life paintings, and even a rare landscape. Second is his use of the trompe-l'œil technique, which means to deceive the eye. Here is his herring cellar and boy painted in 1664. It's a beautiful example of how he used the window frame as a trick to make the items on the windowsill almost come out of the painting, as if the viewer can grab them. And he painted many other works in this style. Dou also had a talent for creating candlelit scenes, something that was particularly popular among the followers of Caravaggio who were active in the city of Utrecht. Dou, however, stayed in the city of Leiden during his life and kind of independently developed scenes like this young woman with a lighted candle at the window. As a popular artist, Dou also painted portraits, the safest way to make money. But as he was such a perfectionist, sometimes taking multiple days to paint a single hand, many people simply did not have the amount of free time to spend sitting for him, especially when there were other artists who would complete the whole portrait in the time Dou took to paint a single hand. So most of his portraits are actually self-portraits, something that he would have gotten from Rembrandt. One other theme that comes back repeatedly in the works of Dou is the Hermit, which Dou painted at least 11 times. It was inspired by his interest in the contemplative life, and painting these hermits in a dimly lit, semi-natural environment somehow showcases all the talents of Dou. The pose of the hermit, the aged hands, wrinkled face, and grey hair of the hermit, all the props like the Bible, crucifix, skull, hourglass, and other vanitas symbols are rendered with great precision, demonstrating the exquisite technique and attention to detail from this successful artist. Dou is considered a so-called fijnschilder, a Dutch term literally meaning fine painter, referring to the extreme attention to detail on small canvases. If you look at Dou's works, you will not discover the individual brushstrokes, as it is all extremely polished. And most other fijnschilders came from Leiden and were followers of Gerrit Dou. Well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of a painter who's perhaps somewhat underrated today. Although one of his works recently sold for over $7 million, that is still less than half of what was paid for a work by Frans Hals. And Rembrandt has even sold multiple works for over $100 million. Finally, if you want to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Thanks for watching.